Hey, I'm Sam, and like most hot, sexy, and beautiful women, I have IBS. I've done videos about my favorite books, but today I'm talking about books that pissed me off. These are books that made me so angry I had to physically stop reading them before I went insane. And yeah, that's Daenerys, my cat. I don't know if you noticed her in the background at all. So let's get into it. Let's talk about The Alchemy of Moonlight by David Ferraro. This book made me livid. This is like a historical fantasy kind of gothic horror story, and it's also a gay love triangle. Normally, I'm not into love triangles, but this one was gay. So I was like, oh, you have my attention. I feel different now. But the problem with this book is that there are two love interests, and they're treated like they're both two options that it would be difficult to choose between. And that is simply not the case. The first love interest is Bram, who's perfect, okay? Handsome, sweet, compassionate, cares about others. He's a doctor, he helps people, and he's just like really like anytime Emil, the main character, is in a bad situation, like this guy's got his back, he's gonna look out for him. Their scenes are very romantic. He takes Emil to the opera. It's really sweet. So obviously this guy is great. Then you have the other love interest, Henri, who is a flaming piece of shit. Like, actually just the worst. The worst. Terrible, manipulative, possessive. He's also Emil's boss, technically. And so Emil works for Henri. So Henri's in this position of power over him. And then he's just fucking with Emil's life, trying to seduce him and getting personally offended when Emil's kind of like, oh, well, I'm actually like seeing this other guy. Like Henri is trying to like piss all over him, claim him, and is so toxic, just does so many abusive things in so little time, so quickly. And Emil is over here like, who do I choose? And I'm like, the fuck? What do you mean, who do I choose? There's one guy who's perfect, and then the other one is literally abusive. What do you mean, who do I choose, Emil? Get it together. And I had to stop reading the book because it got to a point where what Henri was doing, his behavior was so fucked up, and Emil was forgiving him. And I was like, no. I was like, okay, somebody needs to slap this man. Like, I really want to see Henri get what he deserves. I want to see him get what he deserves. And so I kind of like skipped ahead to see what was going on in the book, and I realized that he was not gonna get what I felt like he deserved. Spoiler. The way that it ends is with them becoming a throuple. Henri, Bram, Emil, all of them together. No. I wanted Henri to die. I wished the absolute worst upon Henri. I do not want him to be able to just like have a happily ever after. Like, no, I wanted suffering for this character. So to see him like just become part of a throuple with the other two characters, gross. I hated it. I was so mad. I like went through and I was looking at all the 1-star reviews on Goodreads and just like liking all of them because I was so mad. I literally, it's like the whole concept of the book is great, but this one character ruins the whole thing. I wish I never heard of him. I wish I never read about Henri. Fuck that dude, forever. So speaking of the worst man you could possibly imagine, next I'm gonna talk about Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. Oh my God, this is the worst book I've ever read. I wanted to read it because it's like a sci-fi classic, and my dad had read it when he was like in high school, and he was like, oh yeah, I remember it being good. So I was like, okay, work. And I read it, and where do I even begin with Stranger in a Strange Land? That I guess the premise is that they find this guy from Mars, and the guy from Mars ends up just having, like, I don't know, some type of charm, some type of swag about him, where he kind of just, women just are in love with him. Everybody wants to fuck this guy. He's a Martian, and he's got some kind of magic penis, because all the female characters want him so bad. They want him desperately. And he ends up kind of starting this, like, sex cult, basically. And I don't know, like, I thought this was gonna be more sci-fi than sex cult, but no. Robert Heinlein also put a self-insert into the book as this character who kind of like takes the Martian guy under his wing and like looks out for him. The Robert Heinlein self-insert basically just gets praised constantly. Like, everything that he says is really smart. The Martian guy who's leading a sex cult like looks up to him and sees him as his father. Everybody respects this man. There are like multiple pages, multiple sections where people are like, you're the best guy. You're the best guy, to a Robert Heinlein self-insert character. And I was like, okay, if you're gonna do a self-insert, don't make it so like Mary Sue fan fiction. I don't know. It was just like, okay, you're just jacking yourself off. Like, you put this character in the book to jack yourself off as like a fantasy. I can get into a self-insert character, let me tell you, but not like this. Not like this. Not when it's badly written. And of course, the biggest problem in the whole entire story is that it's extremely, extremely sexist. Extremely sexist. And Robert Heinlein, he's dead. Good. Honestly, good. Because one of the quotes in this book from a female character, like, all the female characters are just basically worshiping this one dude who's from Mars and has a magic penis, whatever. All the female characters just like worship him and don't really have like their own motivations and their own depth of any kind, really. But the lead female character of the book, she says the most fucked up quote I've ever read in fiction. And go ahead and skip ahead if you don't want to hear this quote. It's a trigger warning for victim blaming and sexual assault. So I'll give you a second. Okay. The quote that the lead female character in the book says is, 9 out of 10 times when a woman gets raped, it's partly her fault. Hey, what the fuck? Hey, Robert Heinlein, I fucking hate you. Robert Heinlein, choke. Robert Heinlein, I know you're dead, but I'm gonna bring you back to life and I'm gonna kill you again for that. You're gutted for that. You're rotted for that. Fuck you for that. Do not ever, no. We do not allow this. We do not allow this. You cannot. Oh my God. I was listening to the audiobook in my kitchen and I was like, when that quote came up. And then at that point I was like, okay, fuck this book forever. Because I wasn't really into it as I was reading it, but I was determined to finish it. And then that quote happens and I was like, oh, fuck this forever. Robert Heinlein, fuck you forever, dude. Robert Heinlein, when I see you in hell, it's on sight, bitch. It's on sight. And here's the thing. You might be like, okay, so Robert Heinlein died in the 80s. He was born in 1907. So you might be thinking, hey, the times, olden times, whatever. He's old as fuck. It was a different time. I don't care. I don't care, dude. I don't care. Like, I have no words for that quote. As soon as I read that quote, I was like, okay. Bye. Bye. I don't care if this is a sci-fi classic. And I told my dad about it because he was the one who had said he liked it in high school, and I was like telling him about it, and he was like, I don't even remember that. That is so gross. Like, he was so horrified because, you know, when he was a teenager reading it, he was not really like analyzing it like I was, not looking at it from the perspective of a woman. And so he had no idea, he had just missed how fucked up it was. It aged like cheese in a hot car. So on a lighter note, switching gears, we're gonna switch to something a little more fun to get Stranger in a Strange Land out of our memories. The next book I want to talk about is one that also, very similar to Alchemy of Moonlight, seemed like something that I would love. I didn't even like read a preview of it before buying it. I just bought it because I was so confident that I would love it. And that book is A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. Now, I've read other Naomi Novik books. I loved Spinning Silver. I also enjoyed Uprooted. But this book is different. This book is different. So the book is like, it's another one of those Harry Potter hot take kind of things, which I love Carry On. So, you know, I'm thinking that a book that kind of like takes the concept of like Hogwarts as a school being like super dangerous and having like evil kids and having a chosen one and kind of like all of those elements. I thought that was gonna be really good. I thought this was gonna be like a nice like twist on that. And to some people it is. But the main character, her name is Galadriel, but she goes by Elle, which is, I mean, Galadriel, that's goofy, that's silly. I didn't find it quirky in a good way though. I was like, oh my God, okay, Galadriel. She's very like, I do evil magic and I'm a bad bitch. And here's the thing. I could not read this book without comparing it to a very similar work. And the similar work that I'm comparing it to is My Immortal. This book literally reads like My Immortal for adults. This book is if a professional author took My Immortal and like made it in a more sophisticated copy. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what it is. And so reading it and just going through, and it reads like My Immortal, except My Immortal is so bad that it's funny. Like, My Immortal is funny. It's iconic because it's so bad. This was just bad. I hated the main character so much because as you're reading it through, it's giving like, my name is Ebony, Darkness, Dementia, Raven Way, or in this case, Galadriel, Darkness, Dementia, Raven Way. Like, it's so My Immortal. And I couldn't get that out of my head. I found the main character to be so obnoxious. And I like a girl who's quirky and different, you know, but not when it's My Immortal, right? Like, not when it's My Immortal. This book also got called out for being racist. There was a passage about dreadlocks that she wrote that was like really fucked up. And I know that Naomi Novik has apologized for the racism in the book and removed it from like new prints, but still bad. The only thing is I can't really do a commentary on the racism, for one thing, because I didn't get that far. I quit so early. I'd rather read My Immortal, because at least it's funny. So those were the books that made me the most angry of anything ever. I wouldn't say they're the books that I hate the most. Well, Stranger in a Strange Land is my number one most hated. But of the books that I chose to read for myself that weren't like required reading for school, these were books that I really hated. Now, if you want to see a video about books that I love, go check out one of my previous videos about my favorite fantasy novels and my favorite gay fantasy romance, so you can get a sense of what I think is good. And not these. It's not these. It's not the ones I talked about today. But thank you so much for watching. check out my other videos, and leave a comment on this one. Especially if you did like any of these books. I want to hear why you liked it. I disagree, but I would like to hear your opinion. So, thanks. Bye.